time when we used to ask the question, well, who's using SharePoint? Today, I would almost say it's the other way around. Who's not using SharePoint? According to Jeff, the statistics show that 20,000 users, licensed users, have been added since the launch of MOS 2007 every day. 20,000 new users every day, which is an impressive number. So I know that also of the companies that are here and having spoken to you over the years, people have varying levels of information, and also depending on the department that you work in, about the product itself. So today I'm going to try and cover just a couple of basic areas. What is SharePoint, taking a look at the release history, and then really trying to examine how people are using it through SharePoint project examples, and also taking a look at some existing trends that through research, and also some of the things that we're seeing as we talk to our customers. So as I mentioned, 10 years on, back in spring 2001, Microsoft actually released 2 products that were developed by 2 distinct product development teams in Microsoft. So, you know, when we try to explain to people that SharePoint does lots of different things, it kind of makes sense. It actually started out as 2 different things. SharePoint Team Services provided basic collaboration and document management delivered as an add-on to front page media, and built on SQL Server. SharePoint Portal Server was actually originally conceived as an extension of the public folder system in Exchange, built on the Exchange Jet Engine database. And I'm not sure, did anyone in the room ever work with, I was speaking to one person earlier who had 2001. Has anyone, a show of hands for anyone who had any exposure to 2001? Down the back? Okay, and over there. So a few early adopters, and I think it was really with the release of 2003 that a couple of major changes, when we look back on the evolution of SharePoint, happened. First of all, the products were put together by Microsoft, both now on SQL Server, and the other really, I suppose, important development was the decision to roll out Windows SharePoint services. So the core engine of SharePoint, also referred to as WSS, essentially to offer it as a free product, or at least free for those who had licensed Windows Server. As I mentioned, with the release of MOS 2007, as it's referred to, take-up really exploded, 75 million users. And again, the idea of pushing out WSS 3.0 at this stage to allow people to experiment with it. And that's been continued all the way up to the latest release last year of 2010. And I think, also now rebranded as SharePoint Foundation Server. And the key there is that for smaller organizations who may have budget constraints, it allows people to actually use the product, albeit with limited scope. And I also think for larger organizations, I was talking to someone from one of the central government departments just over coffee, where they're under pressure to I suppose, manage their budget as closely as possible. They're seeing it as an opportunity to move some of their existing applications and implementations from 2007 onto 2010 without having to automatically pay the license fees for 2010. So at least to build up a decent business case so that when they move to Microsoft SharePoint Server 2010, that they can actually present it to the finance department. Proving what it actually does and what it's going to save them. So the numbers, and again, this notion of having a basic foundation set that people can experiment with, I think has driven the user numbers. It's why it's been so successful. I think the other reason is because Microsoft have continually added features. Sometimes it almost feels as if there's a dizzying array of features in the different components. And if any of you are familiar with the SharePoint wheel, as we've seen here through the different evolutions going all the way back to the beginning up to the latest version for 2010, I mean, we've run events on the insights or business intelligence piece alone. And you can spend a half-day session taking any one of the segments of the wheel and going into a lot of detail. So there's a lot of functionality in there, and most companies will find some piece, particularly initially, to latch on to use SharePoint and roll it out. I think the final point as well is that it's the nature of what it does almost has a viral effect, and I suppose we use the term viral, particularly in the context of commercial applications and also devices. But I think in enterprise software, SharePoint really is the closest thing to a viral product that, because of the fact that it involves different work groups and people in different parts of the organization, it spreads very quickly, and that has driven the adoption of it. So without going into all the different segments of the wheel, which can be a lengthy process, I thought in terms of addressing how people use it, we would just take a look at simple projects, particularly that people, I suppose their first experience with SharePoint starts out often with documents and document management, initially as a replacement for file shares, so reducing duplication of documents, people emailing lots of different versions of the same document around. So essentially consolidating that into one location, having one document that everybody knows is the right version. It could be a health and safety document, guideline at a very simple level, an employee handbook. So controlling who can author that, who can update it, who approves it, and simply making it available for people. I think the other component of document management is also the fact that it allows you to structure your documents. And we'll see in the presentation and some of the demos that Neil will go through in the example around project management office, allowing people to structure where they put their documents. I mean, companies that are project driven, who are repeatedly doing the same types of activities, giving them a structure to predefine what documents should be created, in which cases, and where they should go. I should add, we've actually implemented it and used it extensively as part of our ISO certification project a couple of years ago. The other thing is, I suppose people going back used to ask the question, how scalable is SharePoint? How many documents can it handle? And I think there was a lot of discussion initially around capacity planning. I think today we've reached the stage where that's not so much an issue. I don't see it quite as much. I mean, we've got a couple of customer examples, Cork County Council, Ulster Bank alone, who have in excess of 1 million documents. I think the second main area that people associate with SharePoint is the portal capability, so the ability to create websites. And it's probably often been one of the criticisms of SharePoint is that it's too easy to create websites. I think it's a great compliment. I mean, it's probably an industry first to complain about a piece of software that it's too easy to do something. And this has driven the adoption of it. People create sites, they create them for their own workspaces, for different departments. And again, this starts out at a very basic level. People are already accessing documents through the web, hence it becomes an intranet homepage, even for putting simple information up there, like the lunch menu at the canteen, for example, staff announcements, updates. So very quickly, SharePoint took that place, and also people saw it as an opportunity to have a simple method of managing their intranet, reducing the number of applications that they're using. And quickly then, I think people end up in a scenario where they say, well, we can access that information. What about our partners? There's an Irish utilities company I spoke to recently, and they've 8 offices around the world. They've got 500 design partners. And it makes sense that you would want to push some of the information that you have out to those people. They've set up a separate OU in Active Directory to allow those people to come in and be authenticated with the rights that they should be entitled to. And then going all the way to full-blown public-facing internet sites. Welfare.ie, one of the central government departments that has recently started using, you go on there, all the content that you see is managed and delivered through SharePoint. And again, this is, SharePoint is about also reducing total cost of ownership. You've invested in your infrastructure, in your licenses, in your skill sets to maintain the applications. And I think, again, people see it as an opportunity to consolidate those activities onto one platform. So logically then, you have an internet, be it intranet access, extranet, public-facing, people are using it. You start to add more content. Okay, so how do you manage that content? Historically, people would have had, again, a separate, in some cases, full-blown CMS. In some of the research that we looked at recently, this is probably the area of Microsoft SharePoint 2010 that's growing the fastest over the last 12 months, as people become more confident with some of the initial things that they've done and start to expand that out. The more information you have in there, not just documents, the more content people are adding, the more people are using it, then obviously the more powerful the search becomes. There's various different studies are done, but probably one of the studies I've read suggests that 29% of all employees spend more than 8 hours a week searching for things. So it sounds like a big figure, but if you were to listen around the office, the number of times people would say, do you know where I can find, or has anyone seen, or how do I get, we all do it. Putting proposals together, getting information for customers. If you can find information for customers, for helping people, getting to solutions faster. One of the cases that we've handled recently is IDA Ireland, where we've consolidated 3 separate websites, brought all that content in, and have delivered enterprise search across that.